Hello, everyone. Good evening or good morning, whenever you are. Welcome to another episode in the Angular Nation Experts channel. Um, these events wouldn't be a reality, and we would like to thank AG Grid for their help for these events and all the other events that we conduct in the free channels of Angular Nation, of course. And today we have a topic very um, controversial in the Angular community, which is we will talk about the template forms, not template-driven forms, template forms. I really like this term better, and we have two special persons, two special gentlemen today to to help us understand why template forms are cool. We have another Angular developer expert, which is Sander. I hope you know Sander because he's also very popular in the Angular Nation community. And on the other side of the ring, we have Jeffrey Bosch. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Hello, everybody. Well, good to be here again.
Long time no see.
Yeah,
We
it's
haven't seen
definitely a
you
long
for a long
time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
they
I'm
will.
back.
Sorry.
I'm back.
Okay. So they will
Jeffrey
talk
was
about.
one of the original members of Angular Nation.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh, didn't know about that.
He's old school cool.
Oh, cool.
He's actually still on the Angular Nation core team, I believe. He's one of our moderators. He got busy, he had a job and a baby, but we still love him.
So, guys, if you want to start with your presentation about template forms, I think I guess that you will demo something really cool and innovative about template forms, right?
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
I think we'll show some cool stuff, and we're also here to talk about reactive template forms and the cool thing we're showing today. So
Awesome.
let me share a little bit of my screen just to start. Let me see. Let me see if this is working. Can you see everything?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're going to talk about forms, but we are also going to talk a little bit about validations in forms and how you can do it. But before we go dive deep in these kinds of topics, Sander, would you introduce yourself?
Hi. Oh, I'm Sander, Angular GDE. Been around Angular for a while now. I created Scully and I co-created Validointi and a couple of other things that are floating on the web. So that's me.
Yeah, my name
AKA
is
grandfather, what is it? Godfather of Angular Nation. That's what we call him.
yeah, my name is Jeffrey Bos. I work at a digital signing solution here in the Netherlands. I'm part of the organizers of the Dutch Angular group. I'm still a member of the X Layers thing, and I've done some other things around the Angular community. And I'm the co-creator of the topic we're going to talk about today. But before we're going to do this, we are going to have a look a little bit around what we got in Angular at the moment, and that is basically two different type of ways how you can use forms. And forms, it's not a special thing, the HTML5 specification is pretty clear on these kinds of topics, so you don't need Angular in a specific way, but Angular does some cool stuff around it to work with the framework. And there are basically two types. Most of you probably have known this, but it's template or reactive forms. Both do the same thing. They capture user input, validate stuff, and track changes, because this is what Angular has under the hood: change detection, these kinds of stuff, so that you can easily track the difference that are going to be working on these kinds of forms. But there are a little bit differences between reactive and template forms. And I'm not going to say template-driven forms, but just template forms. Because the setup is a little bit different. In Reactive, you need to be explicit. This is, by the way, just from the Angular documentation, so it's not something we made up or something. This is just what they got there. You need to make an explicit class or a thing, a model there. And on template, you have this implicit, and you can use some directives in specific ways. The data model in Reactive, it's pretty structured and it needs to be immutable, which in template needs to be, or is basically unstructured and mutable. So you can change everything there in that way. And I think the key difference is probably that the data flow is a bit different, where Reactive Forms has a couple of things to do, and that's done by Angular, basically, which makes it synchronous, and template-driven forms is asynchronous. And the last part is probably the most biggest reason, I would say, why people use Reactive Form, and also why Angular is promoting a little bit around Reactive Forms, is that in template forms, you need to make the directives for validations. And there are a couple of that are coming out of the box. Let's say an email check. You can just put in the email directive. Angular has this directive within the framework. And if you put in a email that is not a there's a standard for it. I don't know which one it is, but there's a email standard there. And if you put in a different one, just like a plain string with "Hello there, I'm Jeffrey," it won't work because of this directive that's there. And if you need to have some custom validations, let's say you need to do an HTTP call to a API where you can say, okay, this username cannot exist, for example, you need to make a directive and you need to put it in the template form there before you can use it. Which in Reactive Forms is a little bit easier because you're already in the form control. You can make a Reactive Form validator, and well, it's pretty similar like RxJS stuff. So most of the people already know these topics. So Reactive Forms, how does it look like? This is a really simple example, but you need to import the Reactive Forms module. And when you have done that, there will be a couple of directives there that you can use, and one of them is the form control. And basically what you're now saying is, okay, on this input type text, we have a form control, the favorite color control, and it has an empty string. And from this part, you can add validations, for example, in a reactive manner. In template forms, it's a little bit different, and also there's a big difference because we need to use the forms module import, but also we need to do ng model as a directive. And this is also two-way binding. And two-way binding is always a thing, probably for most developers, because that's something we don't want. But you just define a property or a specific model, and in this case, it's favorite color with an empty string. And what Angular will do is just basically hook this up and say that the value of input type text is, well, an empty string, favorite color. I think you need to switch over, Sander, right now to your demo, or I'm going to put it on screen. What's easy? You're muted.
No, I will share my screen. I was just posting something.
Oh.
Somewhere.
Okay, let me see if I can stop this.
Focus, Sander.
I will share my screen. Which one? This one, I think. Share. So this is all readable.
Can you bump up?
Can you zoom? Can you zoom?
Can we zoom? Okay.
I didn't know you were born in
The letters are
1990.
like this big for me already. But okay, I zoom.
We don't have all the such great screens as you, Sander.
It's not really about what's on the screen. It's a little bit. there is a template-driven form on the left, and there is a reactive form on the right. What is the difference? Well, actually, the one has a green thing around it, and the other one has an orange thing around it. That is not showing my preference at all.
Rob, do you have a question? Rob? Okay.
Oh, no, I just wanted him to bump up the fonts because it was too small.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, wait until we go to the code. So there is this reactive form, and I can do things like validation that works, so I cannot submit. Well, nothing special. This thing is not about validation. We will run into validation later on. I just added some really simple validation to show off some things. I can put in a name, and then I can submit my form, and you will see the other one will update. So those forms are really using a service to store all the data that is just the same. If I change something here, or if I move it back to working, is exactly the same. So why would I favor one over the other? Well, the story is that reactive forms are more versatile and can cater for more use cases and are easier to use. I disagree, and I always have disagreed with this statement. If you have an application that is stuck full of reactive forms, don't go refactor it because I said it's a bad thing. Reactive forms are not a bad thing. They are working well. You see, it works even in my sample. They do work. So yeah, you can do both things with both of the standards. Let's switch over to the code. Let me zoom out a little bit. Can anyone guess which one is which? Because this is the code for both forms.
I can, but I'm not in this game.
I cannot even see the code.
It isn't about the code just yet, but can you guess which one is which?
I guess the simpler code would be the one on the left, and that's probably template-driven forms.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
the one on the right is reactive.
Exactly.
Because of how much wrote.
Yep.
You've been hanging out with Sonder too long, Aquila.
That's my uncle.
So, yeah, the thing is, for reactive forms, you need more code. And then people say, yeah, but it gives you something. That might be true, but it might also be not as true as you think. So basically, some people are saying, yeah, I like reactive forms because I don't like the clutter in the templates. I was asking, can you specify? And I got nothing. So I compared them. Well, if you don't like banana in a box things, yeah, that's it. It doesn't look that beautiful. But for the rest, I think this one is even a little bit shorter than this one. And that is about the difference in the template. Rob, is this readable now or still not really?
It's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Aquila, do you have a question?
Oh. No, I'm sorry. I still
yes.
have it up from before.
Okay.
No problem. So you see, in the template, they are not that different. The only difference is basically you use ng model with a data entity. Let's go over the code of the template-driven one first. I have a reset option. You might remember I can reset my form to the original default. So that's why the reset is there. I inject my sample data service. My data is listening for the reset. Is something reset? I need to re-get my data. And basically, it is just an observable of a model. And the model is the data I'm getting. If I'm going to save, I'm getting the data from the form, and I'm just going to use my service to save the data. Any questions? Probably no, but if there are, feel free to ask. So that was a hard sentence. Well, let's move over to the other one, because there's a slight amount of more code, and I'm not always against more code, but I'm against more complexity. And I will go over this.
Can you just do one? Stop for a second. Maybe on the left side also we got the validations and decals and stuff already in the templates, and that's also a big difference, which you can see. So that's also that we didn't mention right now, but that's also already in the template without any extra line of code, just plain HTML5 validation.
That's a good point, and I actually like this because simple validations like, okay, something is required. You don't need a validation library for that, or you don't need anything else for that. You can just use the required. You also have like min-val, max-val, and a couple of other. You have patterns. There are a boatload of those things that easily validate your data. Yes, Rob?
Yeah, so some people will argue that we have a lot of stuff on the HTML side and not enough on the code side. So isn't the ultimate goal to control everything from the code side, from the TS file, instead of doing it through the HTML? What is your opinion on that? Because most of the time when we develop components, right, we have separate files for the HTML and the code. So it's not, it's not all in the one component like you have it.
Yeah, the thing is, if you need to split it out, probably you're doing something wrong because one of the two is getting too big. So I like to keep it in the same file because, look, it's like 20 lines of HTML. You don't really need to split that out. And it makes it easier to reason about if you can see those both, and then you can say, okay, I can open two editors and put it aside. I'm not really saying don't put it in another file, because that is more a matter of taste than anything else. And if it's getting a little bit bigger than this, I will put it in a file also, because that is just a little bit easier to manage then.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to mention the point that is Akila just pointed out, is that HTML5 already has this support in the browser. So it's not, yes, Angular does some things around the required, it's a directive in the code, but it's plain HTML5. It's not something different. It's not a framework specific, I would say. It's just HTML5.
I can add a little bit to that, because it's true and not true at the same time. Once you're in Angular replaces all of those things with Angular directives, and it is being done on the Angular way. If you don't include any forms, it is being done by HTML in a standards way. For my own applications, I'm actually not using template forms, neither reactive forms, because I mostly use just plain HTML forms. They are not that hard to work with, and you can just put in the values and do everything you need, and don't have to worry about all those differences between the standard and Angular and something else. Not the point here. We are comparing template-driven forms and reactive forms here. It's a good point, though. HTML supports proper validations in a very good way. It even has like a way to put error messages inside of the view. Do something with it. It will pop up error messages for you. Angular actually suppresses those error messages. I don't know, but that is what Angular is doing. I'm not too happy about that, but there is not much we can do about this anymore, because that ship has sailed like a long time ago. Back to the story. I was talking about complexity. If you recall, I have a level here, and it reflects the current level. So if I'm changing this thing, it will update. There is no rocket science here. If I But how does that look in the template? Well, I'm waiting for my data, async as data. No rocket science there. I'm just getting in the data using an observable, and I'm consuming it here, and I'm just showing it here. That's it. And I have an input for the level, and I'm using data level. So if this thing is changing, this thing is updated. Any questions here? I don't think so, but Rob?
Yeah, I see that over here in the date of birth. You split the ng model into a property and an event, right? Care to explain that there?
Oh yeah, I will come to that in a little bit. I will address this. Over here, I have a level, and I have my form control name at a level. But the thing is, the form control is its own thing, and it is not updating my data. So I need something else to update this view. So I have another async pipe to update the view. Let's talk a little bit about the code, because this is all the code for the template structure, and this is the code for reactive form. There is a boatload more of code and a couple of things that are raising a flag. I'm getting my data. I really need to subscribe to the data here, because otherwise I have no way of putting it into my form. There's no way around this. I cannot do this async in the form. I need to subscribe. Or I need to do some really strange things. But I need to subscribe here. So, okay, I add my subscriber. I do my unsubscribe. No rocket science again. But it is additional complexity that I can do without. Then I'm going to update form. And I'm taking a shortcut here. I'm creating a new form group every time new data comes in from my backend service. That is actually, it's not going to break in this sample, but if you have like a bigger form with some sub things in there, it is going to break, and you cannot do it like this, and you need to individually update all of the fields, which is more work. Then my save. Rob just called out I'm doing the split model in the thing. Angular forms are a little bit handicapped when it comes to things like dates. When I'm getting a date, I have a date of birth. I'm getting like a normal date out of my model, which is a normal thing to do. I need to convert it to a special format for the Angular system to work. It needs to be year, month, day, and no time after it, because if you put a time in, Angular blows up and says, I don't understand this stuff. Or it just puts in a random date. Or the date of today, I don't know. It will not work. So in here, I need to slice it. And then when I'm going to save it, I need to recreate a date and then save it back to my service. So again, this is a little bit more complexity. And why am I splitting the ng model here? Well, just because of that. Because I have an ng model, which is a banana in a box, and you can take the banana out of the box and just use the property setting to set the date by using a pipe. And then when the event fires, which means, okay, I'm going to get the data now, I'm going to convert it back, or I'm actually using the target value as date, which is the actual JavaScript date, and I'm putting that back into my model. So my model is always having a correct date in there. So does that answer your question, Rob?
Yes, thank you.
Sander, can I ask something?
Yeah.
What is this $any?
Oh, Angular has events, and the Angular events, this is an event that comes from the input, and the input always has a target with a value as date and value and other things. Only the Angular thinks it's an event of some other kind, and if I remove the any, it will complain that it is. Oh, they fixed it. The any is an option that you can say, hey, this value that can be anything. It's basically the as any, but then in the template form.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just need to cast to any because otherwise the type system is going to say, no, that's not allowed, or it doesn't compile. And then you say, okay, or any, and it's a function. And basically it casts whatever is in the functions to any, and then it shuts up the type system.
Cool. Thanks.
But is that because it's expecting a date, because it's a type date, the input?
Yeah, date of birth is indeed a JavaScript date. And here I'm converting from a date to a string. And here I'm converting, I'm not actually converting, I'm using the value as date, which is available in HTML in the DOM. And I'm using that instead of the string. But I could always could also do something like isostring with from the string. It's similar, but this is the easy way to do it, and you will get the correct date as a JavaScript object. So there is no fooling around with zones, time zones, and stuff like that. It is like just a proper JavaScript date. Let's see. Well, the next thing people say, why would you use... Okay, I have a question. I know there are a couple of people here that like or use reactive forms mostly. Why are you using reactive forms? I want to have like a top 3 reasons.
Because you're not the boss of me. Let me live my life.
That is not a good reason, and I am the boss.
Because I like observables.
Okay, yeah, that might be.
Because I like value changes. That's my favorite thing I think about reactive forms is value changes.
Okay.
It's very convenient.
You can still use the reactive of the form if you add the form here on the form. You can observe the form. On line 14, you can observe that form, ng form item that you have. So you could still use reactive to track, if anything changes on the form as well with that.
I totally can, but I'm.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a question because he said you can't, when you make it into a template referable like that, doesn't it come with values kind of like an object for you to kind of do the same things that you would do in a reactive? Like you can use that reference, right? In the same way, because they both kind of return an object, right?
Well, there was talk about, you see what happens here in my console? Did you just see what I've done? I've taken the template form, control value changes, which is totally available in a template form, and I'm subscribing to it and just logging it out.
Exactly.
So I now have 2 of those things. So if I'm changing anything, so having value changes, not a good reason.
This is why it's so hard to argue with Sander, because he just goes, here, let me show you. And it's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
There is one thing that I kind of switched to template forms, but in reactive forms, I felt the validation were a bit easier to see because I see both the data model and the form data. I see that together.
It's so like you've already seen this talk, Danny.
No, I haven't.
These are spoilers right here.
Oh, I'm going to.
I mentioned we will come back to validation a little bit later. You're not entirely wrong, and you're also not entirely right, but we will circle back to validation in a little while.
All right.
I just wanted to show the template form. Actually, I don't know if you did pay attention. I did sneak in like a little reveal function where I said, okay, I'm getting the template, I'm getting the form, and I'm assigning it to Windows, so I can play with it in my console log, so I can do nice things there. So I kept it out of view for no particular reason whatsoever. How am I doing that? I have a click here, and I'm just getting the form out. So there is no hidden trickery. A little bit hidden, but not really complex things. So if I submit this form, you can see I actually get a date here. If I do this thing, I get this Angular string form type, which is a big difference, that you cannot do this easily in Reactive Forms. I totally find that annoying. The thing is, it works for all the things. But let me clear this thing out. So I have the template form, which is just the ng form, and the ng form has like a control. And ta-da, you can see it is a form group. So I have exactly the same control structure available to me, with everything in there. The value changes. Where am I? Oh, the control.
Sander, so you're actually saying that template forms could have reactive patterns?
They can be way more reactive, or just as reactive as Reactive Forms.
Yes.
You are seeing the controls here: admin, date of birth, email, FAV number. This is exactly this is the same control structure that is available in Reactive Forms. The only big difference is I did not write this thing manually. The whole Angular did build this for me, so I had not to type. I didn't need to type out all of this.
That's what I was saying, Alexander. So, right, that we don't need to. Bonnie's argument is that Reactive Form, she likes the RSJS in it, but observables, but we don't need it because templates, we can do the same thing with the templates.
Yeah, it's going even deeper. You can add the same validators in the same way to template-driven forms.
That's crazy talk.
Do I need to show you?
Yes.
Apparently so, yes.
Well, okay, let's go back to the... Because, let's pick one. Level. I picked temp one. But, oh, I have no validators available in my console, but I just took the form control and I can just add validators here. Like, okay, I could do here. Let me say valid state. This is not going to work because valid state is not an Angular validator. But if you have an Angular validator, you do the validator required and it goes, okay, now this field is required. Just like that. So you can easily add validators imperative the same way you are doing in Reactive Forms. So there is no reason you cannot mix and match whatever you like. There is nothing Reactive Forms can do that template-driven cannot do, and all the way around. They are both sides of the same coin.
Yeah, they're both based on form groups, form controls, validators, etc., etc. There's not anything other there. A couple of things, of course, for the reactivity, as we say with Reactive Forms, but that's it.
And no arrays, right? No, it's only form
groups. Yeah, I've talked with Dylan about that, and first he said, yeah, that is not a missing thing. That there is an easy way to work around that. I can show you an easy-ish way to work around that. But yeah, it would be welcome to have like our form array directive for template-driven forms.
And how would you reference the form controls best? I mean, do you just do it with a string when you find the control?
Good
Get the
question.
string and then control, or how do you reference it if you want to add validators, for example?
You can use the form group, and the form group has a way to get things there, and you can do that by name. You can do that by index to retrieve those things. I actually would not do that at all. I would not add validation in neither in my template or in my component. Let me dig into that a little bit more, because validation is business logic. There are validations because you can.
I don't know if it's just me, Sander, but it sounds like you're underwater.
Yes.
It's not just you. Sander, your audio is wacky.
Okay, let me refresh this thing. I will be right
Back.
You pay your internet bill this month? Sander,
Okay.
you can show us on the code itself right now, like how would you add this validator to the template? That would be awesome if you can do that.
But you were saying you don't, right? And we're telling a reason why.
Yeah,
Because you don't want to do validation in your template.
No, I don't want to do validation. Validation is a business. Validation belongs in the domain of business logic. Do we put
So it's
business
not even
logic?
going to be in the component.
It shouldn't be in the
but
component.
You're not sharing your screen anymore.
No, well, I will reshare my screen. It didn't change, but
They want to see how you add it in the template. So the validation is invisible in the template.
it should not be in the template. It should be invisible in the template, because the template should display validation errors, but it should not be in charge of validation. Validation is business logic, and it should be out of the view. It should be out of the view controller. And after all, this is a view controller. It's not like a big chunk of code. It should be small. It should be like this, and it should not be. There is all kinds of complexity in here. Let me go over those things.
And we want to see how it's hooked up also. Like, where is it triggered?
Yeah, the validation, we will come to that in the next part of the presentation. So we will come back to validation. Let me first go over the complexity, because I think people don't underestimate or overestimate, depending on your viewpoint, what comes with a reactive forms. This is a relatively simple thing. Already I have a subscription in here that is not needed on the other side. I have two class fields that I'm not assigning because I can't. I don't have this data on this point in time, so I cannot add them. So I really need some other place to do that. I need to subscribe to the data. Once I have the data, I can update the form, and then I'm assigning to this is something, in this case, it's simple. You can follow along. It will not cause problems. In a bigger thing, this is going to wreak havoc when you need to maintain this thing long term. Also, assigning it like this, not a good idea. And then I'm assigning here. I'm assigning same problem. I'm assigning out of bounds. Actually, what I really believe that you should be able to assign everything like this, so that it is directly assigned to your class fields. That it is only assigned once and once only. And then I have like, okay, I'm going to listen to the value changes, but I need a piper to start with the level, because the value change will only fire off once the thing is there. None of this is like rocket science. But you need to think about all of those things just to have something simple like data level. I think that adds a lot of complexity for a reasonably, remember the number here that needs to update? That is a really tiny thing. And I'm adding like an observable, 3 lines of code, an async pipe, which is a reasonable amount of extra code for something that can be done quite a boatload easier. So I don't know. I really prefer template-driven forms because your code gets so much more simple. It's easier to reason about, it's easier to write, and pretty soon it is way easier to validate. So, any questions here? Go ahead, Rob.
So basically, let's say that I have a field or an input field that depends on other, in my answer to one of the fields, right? If I will go the reactive way, I have to go and set all the values to the other fields that when this field changes, right? Meanwhile, here, I just have to change the variable, right, that I'm using on the NG model on the template-driven forms, right?
Yes.
Which is way easier than, going through all the headache of setting the fields and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a boatload of things that are way more complex to solve with reactive forms. And then people say, yeah, no, reactive forms is way more suited for complex forms. I'm not seeing it. I never saw it, but and actually it's, if you look at the code and you put both next to each other, you will see it is plain wrong because it's not true at all. I think we are done with this part of the presentation. Did I miss anything, Jeffrey?
Oh, I think we touched on the differences between template, reactive, how you hook things up to each other.
I want to show one more thing, though. In here, I'm pulling in forms and ng form, which is a little bit bigger than the other one. So there is a difference. On the other hand, I need more reactive stuff, so this is bigger. Overall, you will end up with a little bit smaller bundle if you go for template-driven forms. So in that account, template-driven is also cheaper. I don't know why this changed, because it was the other way around earlier today. Those numbers are not like rocket, they are not like in cement, they are estimates. So sometimes it's a little bit off. But overall, I have 2 inputs here. I have more here. So more is more memory. So a reactive form is faster, needs less memory, and does the same thing in an easier way. I'm not seeing the popularity of reactive forms, but that might just me. So with this, I hand it back to Jeffrey.
Oh boy. Well, you put it out there. Let me share again. Let me see. Where is it? This one? Can I then choose that one? Okay. Let me see. I think you can see my screen again.
Yeah.
So we just had the demo reactive and template forms, and well, Sandra and I worked on a thing, and that was basically around template-driven, not template-driven forms. I'm almost said it. Template forms, where the separation of the validation will be a lot easier, and we're happy to announce, especially today, exclusive on Angular Nation, a thing called Validointi. And it makes your template forms even easier than before. And I will go a little bit over the concepts that we have made in the library, so that you have a basic understanding on what you need. And Sandra again will have a small demo again and that these kinds of stuff. The core concepts of a librry is basically that
I have a demo for that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to prepare a little bit.
Well, we should. Well, we can just take our examples. Well, doesn't matter.
Go
Just take
ahead.
the example. Nice. So basically, what we on template but also on the reactive part, you see that you had a let's say a model, and this is basically what we need. You need a validation library where we now have a couple of things from already Angular, specifically, let's say the required, but also a validating email or some other, the checkbox, these kinds of stuff. It's all already in the framework, but there isn't anything that you can say, okay, I want the number, and the number should be this, and it should only be that. And the complexer validations are not there, and you need to make it manually, basically, for your application. We lean on adapters, and we'll have a look at this, and on the registry. But what is a model? A model is basically something like this: a simple JSON object, a name, an email, a password, and maybe a confirm, and where are some values in it. This can come from a backend system. This can be something default in your component service. It doesn't matter, but it's a plain object, basically. And it can be nested and all these kinds of stuff. That doesn't matter. As Sandra already explained, and you also saw in template-driven forms, we are a high believer that the model should not be in the component, but it should be in a service. There is where we believe you should put it, not specifically in the component. It can be even maybe a different clause or a different file, these kinds of stuff, but not in the view part. The second thing we need is a validation library, and a validation library should have a lot of things in there already, and we put in a couple of them. Today we will probably only show the Vest example, but you can also have a look at Joy or AGV, and what they basically do is they validate a model, or some validation library also call it a schema. These kinds of validation libraries are good in validating a specific property with a specific requirement set, with one field, multiple fields, these kinds of stuff. They're already heavily doing these kinds of stuff, and it's easy to use. Also the developer experience is also pretty good of these kinds of libraries, because they're already living here for a long way in the JavaScript community. I think Vest is the newest on the block, I would say, from these three, and I think AGV is maybe the oldest one. And Sandra and I believe that these kinds of libraries will help you even better validate your forms, let's say, in this way, in your model, without having to do any Angular specific magic with value changes or nested value changes in reactive for control checks. Let's say that you want to check if the password has the same as the confirmed password, these kinds of stuff. We built a couple of adapters, and the adapters are there to help you show an error or use a validation library. We made Vest and Joy so that you can easily say, okay, I want to use Vest, use the adapter, and you just put in a specific, well, in Vest it's called suite, a suite of tests for your model, and well, you can use it. And of course, every developer asks then the question, can we make a custom adapter? Can we make our own adapter? Yes, you can, because it's just a plain function. And this is something we use a little bit. And the only thing it needs to be a promise, and it needs to have a validation errors out of it. And how you do it, it doesn't matter us if it's just the same type at the end.
Validation errors is an Angular thing.
Yeah.
So it's other Angular validations in there. We extended a little bit. We have a little bit more possibilities than the default Angular. For now, we did not implement most of those things just yet. But we can do more and better.
Good point. So basically, this would be a custom adapter where you can just say, okay, there's some data coming in, the function is doing its magic, it gets errors out of there in a way, and in this case, validation errors. And there's the concept of a registry, because when you work with template forms and you work with multiple forms, you need to have something like an identifier where you can say, okay, this validation set is for this specific form, because you don't want to mix stuff up. And we came with a concept we call registry. Basically, you will register your validation suite, your test suite, with a unique ID, and then you're done. And then we do, again, the heavy lifting for you to match this against your template form. And this was my, and now you already prepared everything there, Sander, with the new form and validation stuff.
I might.
And I think, Rob, did you ask the question where the name come from?
No, I didn't. I was waiting for that.
I did.
Yeah,
I was gonna.
Yeah, okay. It's Finnish, from the country Finland, for validation. It's so easy.
Ah.
Yeah. Also, we are finishing the validation debate.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
pretty funny, guys.
I have a little form here. It's a little bit little form. I have like a name there. It's all validated, so my name apparently is required. I have like, okay, I have a fax. Call me. I have a password. I can change it, but apparently it needs to be the same in my confirm. So this codependency, it also works two sides. It also, I think it needs to be. We have popping up like the reason why it's not validating. Also, I have tags like this, which is nice. Let me add a couple of those. Apparently there's something off. They cannot be empty. What? They need to be unique. Okay. So you see how this validation is updating in the form. This thing is also off. Apparently it needs to be a phone number, which has some things to it, which is different because this is an email and not a phone number. So this, you see, this is a reasonably complex form. There are a lot of things going on here. I can add and remove those lines. I can change from my email to a phone number, and the validation will follow this. It doesn't do that too well, and that is not a problem of Validointi, but it is a problem of Vest that is not able to handle this complexity flexible enough. But that is a different thing. So I can make it work. So probably you want me to show the code for this form because there must be a boatload of shit in the template for this validation.
Yeah, show me the code.
Sander,
Yeah.
we have exceeded the hour of the event. I don't know. Is it the same link with for the Friday social?
It is. We'll have more people coming in to join the Friday social, but
Okay.
we can hang.
No problem.
We did that
I
on
will go-
purpose.
No. Well, this is the code for the form. So I have a button. That was the button right on. I have, not surprising, ngf data, async data, nothing new there. I have a label for name, input name. Hey, there is nothing for validation. I have contacts, a field set, contact info, app contacts, ng model group contact. Hey, wait. Oh, this is the box that was dropping out. So I'm just using another component for this thing. Can I go to that thing? Apparently not. Probably here. I have a contacts component. Oh, that's a small. I have the button, and I have also an app contact. So there is another sub form there. Oh, okay.
So where is validation?
You are
Show
missing
us
it,
the
aren't you?
magic.
It is working though.
Okay, show the
must be
magic.
something.
Come on.
Let's. So I'm just showing. I'm doing like driving into subcomponents for things. I have the form tree text, which is the array. You saw the array on the bottom. Let's switch over to this one. This is an array. This is just a plain array. And I'm adding things to my array. And I forgot to make them removable, apparently. But you can also remove things for an array. That is not that thing. Let's go back to the form a little bit more. Here's the field set with the array. This is just a normal array. And I'm looping over those things. I created a label tag index as a selector in my other thing, which is a little bit cheating. So it looks like a label, but it is not only a label, it's actually a component. So it falls in line with what I need. And there I'm doing the span for the tag and the input, which is just a normal input of the tag. So this is a complex form. Don't worry if you don't understand everything that is going on here. I went to the advanced form from the get-go. But the thing that Danny is missing is, where did the validation happen? I don't see the validation. It works. I see that it works, but where is it? Well, it is. Where is it? Oh, it's here. That is all I have to add to make the validation work. There are a couple of more things here, but they are not relevant for the validation. But how does that work? Well, let's go to the component, which is, okay, again, really small component. I'm getting the sample data. I'm doing things I don't even recall.
Yeah, we're doing some saving, and we're this is an example from our project. So we can do form validation in whole, but we also can do specific field validation. So we tweaked a couple of things here in the component to see these kinds of stuff. So that's basically what all magic stuff happens here, but it's still not needed. Not needed for a
no,
validation.
not for a normal. For most forms, you don't need stuff like this. What we now do, there is a field level here. I can switch between field level and form level. What is the difference? If you have a big form with thousands of fields, you're doing it wrong. Don't do that. But in case you have it anyway, you might want to listen to the value changes of one form element and not to the value changes of everything. Makes sense, I think, because for the field, for the form level, we are just listening to the value changes of the form and we are processing whatever is coming out of there. Back to the code.
Where's the validation?
Where is the validation? Well, is it in here? Did I put it in here? No. Oh.
No, nope, you didn't.
I probably said something about validation is business logic, and where do we put business logic in Angular?
Service.
In a service. I'm probably using a sample data service. Let's go. This is the sample data. So it's a little bit complex. It has a text, which is a string array. It has an address. It has context, which is an array of a thing. So you see, this is really a more complex model. It has like sub-levels in it. It's not like that is the other one. People tell me, yeah, you cannot use template forms for advanced things. I think this is pretty advanced, but might be me. There is even an enum in the thing. That is the medal. We are using an in-memory database, which is just a map. So that is not to the point. Hey, there is something here. I'm injecting the validation registry service. And I'm a register. Oh, here we see sample data. Do we recall where we seen this before, Danny?
In the form.
Exactly. And I'm creating a vest adapter. So I use create vest adapter is an adapter that Jeffrey just talked about. And we are creating my suite. I basically started this thing up by copy pasting something from the samples from vest. It got a little bit more complex, but the suite is basically a vest way of doing validations. I'm going to show it. This is not about vest, so I will not go into details, but I will show you a little bit because it's a complex form, so the full validation is going to be complex also. I have the possibility to validate the whole form or fields only, so it can be called. This function will be called with all the data of the form and the field that it needs to validate. And if the field is filled, only the data in here will be for that field or the relevant fields. So this is some vest things that says, hey, if it's a field, I only want to test that field. Oh, and by the way, if the field starts with tag, I want to test all of the tags because those need to be all tested. If I'm going to test password, I also need to test the confirm. Those are just field names, if you are not following along, by the way. Sample data is my object, my model, where my data is. If my field start with contacts, oh, it's probably something from this context thing. I want to use include some more things. This is where the vest things becomes a little bit more complex because of the changing things, because one contact can have an email, another one can have a fax number, and we can come up with more of those. And that is where vest is starting to show a little bit of complexity. The most tests are, okay, I have an ID, I enforce the ID is an ID, test name is too short, enforce data name needs longer. This looks like a proper unit test. Cool. Contacts, okay. There must be at least one contact. Oh, cool. I didn't remove all of them, so let me try to do that. I can remove my contacts. Oh, I broke that. Well.
Yeah, you broke it with the form field validation level.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't hook it up. I didn't hook it up to the... But you see, I'm just validating all of the data. I'm getting a model and I'm checking, is my model in working order? If my thing is not in working order, this thing will give a result that looks like the validation result of the Angular thing. It looks almost the same, so we do a little bit of, how do you call it? Data massaging into the right form. And then we pass it to the Angular system, to the form controls that will display the errors. And that is how we hook it up back to the view. So you don't need to do all of those things in the view. You are doing them somewhere else in some business logic thingy. And it is not a concern of the view. It's a concern of the business logic. What is a concern of the view is updating the view so that it displays the errors and stuff like that. Did I skip anything?
This is very cool.
No.
I think
No, I think we
we
got
went over
everything.
our time. We need to wrap up so we can stop the recording. But you guys are welcome to stay and hang out and nerd with us in the Friday social, obviously, and people will have more questions, I'm sure. But we should get to a stopping
Yeah.
point just so we can stop the recording. I think Ari actually had a hard stop at the top of the hour. He's got to be somewhere, y'all.
Yeah, let me just only share the links so that everybody can have a look at that at least when they need to have a hard stop and these kinds of stuff. So I also have, by the way, a hard stop, but I want to thank you for all for listening and hearing us out. Again, go template forms, have a look at our library, how you can use it. Go to any of these things. You can go to our documentation website. You can go straight to our repository. You can sign up for Discord. You can look at Sander's samples about template and reactive forms that we just showed up. And if that's not enough, go check out our Friday social here on Angular Nation, or ping us on Angular Nation or on Twitter or on Mastodon. It doesn't matter anymore where. I will assist you with any questions. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both.
You're welcome.
Very cool.
Let's not forget our tradition here. We should open our cameras and say thanks to Sander and Jeffrey.
Thank you, Sander and Jeffrey. It was as
Thank you.
cool
Well
as we
done.
thought it would be.
Oh, I'm still.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you, Iris. Thank you, Bonnie, for having us.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye.
Hey, don't forget to post the slide deck and the code repo.